our speaker who has been waiting patiently. So our speaker today is Sandy Parker. She is the founder and creativity trainer for the Creative Activation Institute. The topic she's going to be talking about is actually it's more of a topic of conversation rather than a speech topic. What was once number 10 of the top skills needed in 2015, which is creativity, has surged to number 3 in 2020. We all need to be more creative problem solvers for sure. She is the founder and creativity trainer, as I said before, with Creative Activation Institute. A seasoned, smart, funny, and courageous woman. She is a teacher, motivational speaker, workshop facilitator, marketing whiz, modern day muse, and author. Her passion is helping people discover their own source of creativity and guide them to take action steps to live life on their own terms. Who would not want to do that? Previously, she enjoyed a career in media and magazines, managed a chamber of commerce, developed a jewelry line, managed an art studio, was co-host of a syndicated radio show. Let's give a very warm welcome to Sandy Parker.
Hello. I love it that you said funny twice.
Well, it was in my script twice.
I'm funny. So I tell you what I'd like to do. If I'd like to know how many people can hear the sound of my voice right now, and I want to ask you to put in the chat. I'd like for you to rate how you feel at this moment. So 1 is not so good. 2 is don't really feel much right now at all. 3, about normal. 4, good. And 5, awesome. So I'd like to see where we're starting from. 1 is not so good. 2 is don't really feel much right now. 3 is about normal. And 4 is good. 5 is awesome. So I'm looking to see who we have here. And if you could come on video, that would really help me. I feel like I'm talking to live people. That would be awesome. And let me give you an idea. Thank you for putting that in the chat. Let me give you an idea of what we're going to do. We're going to look at ourselves. Thank you for coming on video. That really means a lot to me. We're going to look at ourselves and creativity, and we're going to discover a few things. I hope you leave with one thing that can really be an aha moment for you. We're going to do some breakout sessions, but I want to see how many people we have. You'll watch a short video, and then we'll have a few questions at the end. So I want to ask you right now, does everybody know how to raise your electronic hand? Would you do that? Let me see your hands. Okay, cool. Now, if you would lower your hands, and just so you know, there's a thumbs up in reactions, but raise your hands out there. I would like to ask a few of you, when I say creativity, what comes to mind? So just raise your hand. I'll call on you. And I know, right? Look at Brody. Brody's pointing to his wall. When you hear the word creativity, what does that make you think of? Is it Con? Con, you have your hand raised. Do you have mute on? Maria?
Yes.
What comes to mind when I say creativity?
Options, ideas to solve problems or do things in a different way.
Great, thank you. Lindsay?
I think of, in addition to what Maria said, arts, music, playfulness.
Okay, I'd like a couple of others. Don't be shy. This is going to be fun together. I could go shopping. Shannon? When I say creativity, what comes to mind?
Thinking, oops. thinking outside the box.
Awesome. Who else? Brody, come on. What do you think of when I say creative? Oh, he's on the phone or whatever. Well, let me just mention to you that a lot of people, when I say creativity, then Lydia, are you there? Do you want to pipe in?
Yes, I was just thinking it's all kinds of problem solving and dealing with novel events.
Great. Well, when I say creativity to a lot of businesses, they actually don't respond as positively as you think, because most of the time they hire people to do something they're good at, and they don't want people playing with something they're not good at. Or people think of creativity, just like you said, Lindsay, arts and crafts and scissors and crayons. And a lot of businesses don't go, yeah, man, we need creativity. What comes to your mind, Elizabeth?
I would say resourcefulness. I think that's a really big key for creativity. Like when you see a problem, how can you fix that problem? What are the resources that you have available? That's definitely worked for me in my personal life and my career.
Cool. Now, what I was going to do right now is break into breakout groups, but I don't want you to go into breakout groups and have nobody to talk to. So I think what we're going to do is just keep it open right here. And I'd like to ask a couple of you to share. When was the last time you felt really creative? And what did it feel like, and what were you doing? Daniel? Not Daniel. Anybody else? Well, okay, John, thank you. Kathy, thank you. John, go what?
Everybody knows I'm the blabbermouth around here. So a buddy of mine sent me a video on disruptive technology transformations about 6 months ago, and I started doing a ton of research. And then recently I've come up with a new idea for a business. I was awakened early by the trash truck and by a couple of string trimmers and leaf blowers doing their 120 decibel deal right down the street at 8 a.m. And I thought to myself, well, you know, and I also bought a Tesla recently because of all of this. And I thought, won't it be nice when everything's electric and 20 or 30 decibels quieter? And so I came up with an idea based on that new Tesla Cybertruck. I'd get one of those, and then they don't come out till next year. And then start an electric lawn service that's much quieter. Call it, I don't know, something like Whisper Green or something like that. So I felt pretty creative then.
Now, what did it feel like when you were creative? Like, tell me what it is when you're creative. What's your way of being?
I start researching, and I start writing blog posts and things like that, and sometimes building a business plan and talking to a lot of people to see. I throw things up against the wall, you know, the spaghetti against the wall, and see what sticks, see what people's reactions are. But as I think anybody who knows me very well knows, I get a little excited about these things. So
that's a good point. So when you're in that creation, your energy rises.
Absolutely.
Your brain is functioning.
Yep.
You might even have bodily sensations like.
And I'm engaged.
Huh?
And I'm engaged.
And you're engaged. So I think that's what I want to focus. Kathy, what were you thinking? When was the last time you were really creative?
The last time was in 2002, maybe, when we were in the midst of a dot-com bust. 38,000 tech people were unemployed in Austin, and Workforce opened up a small office to take on some of this glut of unemployed people. And they thought that this little satellite office would only be open for 6 months at the most. And it was open for 3 years. And they didn't assign anybody to be a manager. So I'd worked for the organization a long time. I asked if I could be just in title only a manager so that I could work overtime. And so we didn't have a manager. We didn't have management looking in at us. I had a key to the building, and we came up with a gazillion ideas. We had talent shows for unemployed people. We had classes where people taught each other called the Brain Exchange. We had a technology sandbox. We went on fossil expeditions with everybody's families. We did all kinds of stuff, started all kinds of new programs because we didn't have management. And anyway, that was the first time we had no management and we had a key.
I hear that no management was a really great thing for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And can you hear in her voice her way of being? Can you describe that way of being? What's it like when you're being creative?
It was invigorating. It was just invigorating because people would come up with ideas and we'd say, okay, we'll do that. And we just did it. We never asked permission. We just did it. That if we had asked permission, they would have said, you can't do that because you can't be open at night and on the weekends, and you need a security guard, and there are all these rules. And so we never asked permission. We just did it. And all of the unemployed people, were invigorated as well. They were teaching classes. We had a computer build that we did on a weekend and we broke up into teams and they wouldn't eat. I bought all this pizza. They wouldn't stop for lunch because they were working. They were
That's
all
awesome.
excited to be participating.
Perfect. Thank you, Kathy. Brody?
Sorry, my dad was having a phone call a little bit
That's
ago.
okay.
But my creative thing, and I can change my background, woohoo, is my older brother is ex-Air Force and wanted me to make him a patch for his boss. And so his quote is, if you were a captain of any ship, it would be a garbage barge. So I have made him a company patch specific, like to put on a hat. I've made a long rectangular one, a circular one for like stickers and whatnot. That's the kind of creative I like to be in.
And what was your way of being when that was happening?
Honestly, when I get in that headspace, I lose track of time. That is probably the most exciting thing to have, is when I can sit down, put my thoughts to it, look up at the clock, and 2 hours have just passed, and it feels like 5 minutes, to be honest.
I get that. Thank you. Perfect. How many people feel that energized at work? Now it looks like Brody might because of that background. In the chat, let's see how to ask this. On a 1 to 10, how invigorating do you think the workplace is? Like, how many people in the normal workplace feel like what we were just hearing? In the flow, invigorated, forget to eat, working as a team, free to investigate, free to create. Wow, I don't want to know where Randy works. Because that is really what I wanted to take to the workplace. So I created Creative Activation Institute. And it's an institute that provides solutions for productivity and aliveness in the workplace using 7 principles of creative activation. And it's great for the business. I mean, if you can listen to yourselves a minute ago, what if that was your business and people felt like that? It would be awesome. It would access the most underutilized part of their brain, keeping them alive and vital. They'd be more accepting of initiatives and change. And then it nurtures the mindset of working together, like you were saying, Kathy, and togetherness. Well, here's a little bit about me. First of all, you should know I'm a bit of a crazy woman, and I love it that it's funny in my description. I'm going to use that again. So I walk around with a big can of Can Do It. I don't know if you know Peggy Sue from the song Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue. Buddy Holly. So for the young people that may not know. I always wanted to be Maria in The Sound of Music. I made my own wedding dress. I've been on the radio for years, a comedian on AHA Broadway, and I wrote a children's book. The reason I put all this on here is so you can basically tell I'm creative. But being creative to me is being alive. So I'd like for you to show me where you see creativity in this picture. You can just raise your hand or you can just speak out. Where do you see creativity in this picture? Where does it reside in the picture? Elizabeth?
So I would say it's also in her dress, like she's being creative with her attire, as well as, of course, as painting. That's very creative.
Okay. Lindsay?
I'd say the person's facial expression, just the intense focus on the canvas.
Okay, who else? Maria?
I think in I think in the canvas you can see the expression of that creativity from the artist.
Okay, need a couple of more guesses.
In her head and in her heart.
Who said that?
Terry.
Who?
Terry R.
Well, Terry R., let's just look. Is it in the canvas? It's showing up in the canvas. Is it in the brush? Is it in the paint? That paint doesn't do anything until that woman picks up the brush, dabs it in the paint, and starts into the canvas. So I'm going to propose that it shows up in many places, but where it lives is within a person. It's saying, I'm the one to go in. I'm the one to pick up the brush and go in. So my proposal is creativity is in us. So our philosophy is a little bit different than coloring. Our philosophy is creative isn't a skill, but a way of being. It's a sign of life. If you're not creating, you're not living. And you can hear it when people said when they were creating, they were living, right? It starts with a realization that you have the capacity to create in every area of life. And it's going into a liminal space. Who knows what liminal space is? Liminal space, you know, Lindsay?
If I'm remembering correctly, it's like when it's infinite, it's endless. You can't see where it's going. It's just, but you know that it's going somewhere.
Okay. Who else has a guess? Well, I'll give you a good visual. Liminal, who is that?
They're transition spaces or border spaces.
Exactly. Liminal comes from the word threshold. It means you left one place and haven't gotten to the next place yet. So you know the trapeze artists that swing and they let go of the bars and they're flying in liminal space until they catch the other side. One of the reasons that the pandemic has been so upsetting is we've all been living in liminal space. We left a normal we knew, and we're not quite to a new normal. So that liminal space is what you have to start with the possibility of going into the unknown. And that's kind of startling for us. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm still in liminal space. I thought the vaccine was going to cure everything. No, it's not. I thought everything was going to open. Now it's not. So we're still really dancing with the unknown. And being creative nurtures your mindset of being together. The other thing is, it's not a thing. It is a series of circumstances or conditions like a canvas on which to paint. So we see life as your canvas for creativity. And at the same time, it could be we're not creative at all. There are times when we go to the canvas and we're not creative, but we have the courage to go in, and it's a brave putting yourself at risk to join hands with failure, realizing that failure is future for growth. So now when you look at the painting, do you see that it's flowing through her to the canvas and the paint? Do you now think creativity is located in her? So there are techniques to creatively activate. So if creativity is in you and you want to activate it, how do you activate your own creativity? Was it Brody that was out there? Brody, how do you activate that creativity?
That's
Or
a
John?
that's a very interesting question. Honestly, I don't know how you activate it. It just happens naturally for me. Though for others, it simply has to be like they may have to sit down and think about it. But for me, I can simply snap my finger and it just happens.
So you had an idea for your brother's image, right? So you had the occasion to solve something. And then you just get right in it. So it doesn't sound like you have many barriers. You just get started and you're in it, right? How about everybody else? Who else has a way that you activate your creativity, or you start it or get it going? Do you know? Maria?
For me, I like to start looking at things that I am doing and think, how can I improve this? And that activates ideas, what can I do different, how I can get it better, things like that.
Right.
I find that trying to challenge the way I'm doing things is the trigger to activate that creative process.
Great, thank you so much. John, did you want to pitch in? You said, oh, I'm sorry, I missed Lindsay. Lindsay, how do you activate your creativity?
If I'm actually going to be making something, I set parameters like who's my audience, how big do I want this to be, what medium am I going to work with, and then I'm able to narrow it down.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful point, because a lot of people think creativity is just wild abandon. But if you think of rivers, how they have the border, it makes the river go faster. So having some parameters is really a great idea. Elizabeth?
So one thing I do, I like to listen to classical music for some reason when I'm like thinking in that way. It helps me, as well as going online, just looking at what other people brought up, and or like for me, Pinterest. So I mix a bunch of different ideas at once, and then I kind of create something that's very different from each individual one. That's how I work.
And you can feel it when your creativity is being activated.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
John, what activates your creativity?
Well, I have to have quiet time and do research. I grew up around a theater family. Mother was a costume designer and dad was a scene painter and scene designer. So I was scared to go into the theater because I was around all these professionals. I didn't see how I could make the leap from not doing it into being a professional. But, they would always, once they had decided to start working on a play, or, the committee had decided what was on there, they'd then go do research, find out, what other costumes, read the play, do historical research. And I follow that pattern quite a bit. When I get an idea that I get excited about, I've got to validate it. Then I talk to a bunch of people and get some pushback, but it has to be quiet time. I can't be so busy with other stuff that I can't think about it.
Great, 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 great. Is it Elisa? What activates your creativity, Elisa?
Yep. For me, it always starts with a workout, a walk, something to get my heart rate up and my blood going. And then coming down from that and as I'm working out or doing whatever physical activity, I'm reflecting on how to form, what I'm going to do. And then it makes it easier to come down from the rest time to have that quiet time, like John mentioned, having that quiet time after the workout to be able to start putting things together in my mind and on paper.
So you literally raise your energy level as a resource, as a tool to get into creativity.
Yes.
Perfect. Let me just say we have located 5 techniques that activate creativity in people. One is immersion. And what immersion is actually being immersed in a situation that kind of takes over your senses. I'll give you an example of one program we did. It's called Underwater Photo Shoot. If I want to take a group of 20 women and have their creativity like fired up, I can put them in a situation where they've got to go, right? It's like unknown, breaking through normal. Another way to do that is limiting the time or putting a limit on something. Like, what if your boss came to you and said, okay, we want to make this item in half the cost? How are we going to do it? Or if we're going to do this in half the time or in a limit of time, how do we do it? And then there's discovery. I think somebody said seeing something beautiful. I think Elizabeth was one, you got your sort of mojo going by just seeing all the possibilities that are out there. Another way we activate our creativity is by challenging ourselves to do something. Like I went to a group and we had to break a board, and I'm not a board breaker type. I'm like, no, not me. And they said, come on, you can do it. Just take a whack at this piece of wood. And I'm like, oh my God. I could feel my and that totally, and then I broke it. And then unify is actually taking desperate pieces and putting it together, which we've done since we were little. Like instead of peanut butter and jelly, we could do peanut butter and pickles, or we could do combinations of unification, and our brain starts working. What else could go together? So these are just 5 simple techniques. So I want to stop my share for a minute. Now, out of the people who are on here, it says we have 25 participants. How many people are willing to play a game with me for about 2 minutes? Raise your hand, please, so I know who's playing. Awesome. Awesome. Great. Okay. So we're going to experience limit and immersion. And we're going to go in order. So if you have your hand up, be ready to share. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a story together, 1 sentence at a time. And you have 30 seconds for your sentence. So Elisa, give us a sentence.
I was walking down a path.
Okay, Sherry, go. Okay, Lindsay, go.
When suddenly I saw a bear.
Elizabeth, go.
When I saw that bear, I saw the bear's cub, and I knew I was in trouble.
Ooh, Sally, go.
I could only see
You can only what?
half the bear. And then I realized the water was there.
Okay, Kathy, go.
I knew from my training that I needed to stand still for a moment so as not to upset the bear.
Perfect. Karen, go.
Fortunately, I had my trusty slingshot with me, and I noticed there was a honey hive overhead.
Daniel, you with us? No. Lydia, go.
I looked around all parts of the path.
Maria, go.
It's time to make a decision.
Terry, go.
I shot down the honeycomb and then I swam across the lake.
Jean, go.
I forgot that I had a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. Oh no.
Never go.
So then I took the cigarettes out and laid them on the ground to see if I could dry it out.
John, go. Oh, John's up late. Okay, so what did you experience? Brady, did you not want to play?
Oh no, I'm not very good at making that kind of stuff.
Give us a big ending.
A big ending. Okay, I can certainly do that. And despite of what all has happened with the bear and the cub, the cigarettes aren't much of a problem.
Ta-da! So now what's interesting to me is there were only about 2 or 3 people raising their hand. And then I said, let's play a game. Who wants to play? And there's like, 20 people that want to play. And then Elisa had to start us and she's like, oh my God, here I go. Right? And then you go, oh my God, here I go. Did you feel your energy rise? Did you feel our togetherness like come together in that moment?
Like a team, yes.
And it's such a silly exercise. But when you go into workplaces, or even in our experience here, and you all of a sudden have something to do together, then it will activate your creativity. So that's just a little demonstration. But the other thing is, you get a lot of C-suite people in a room and you say, okay, 1 sentence for building a story, go. I shouldn't pick on C-suite people because it's all of us. We really want to look good. If you really want to look good, creativity is not your path. Creativity is the path of being alive, not looking good. So I just want to point out that we're talking about our quality of life here. So in your job, I would say, seek a place where you can be alive. If you can't be alive, you're just going to slowly diminish. Okay, these are the 7 principles of creative activation. And we're not going to talk about it for a long time because I don't want to lose you. I finally got you in a game. But if you'll start in the top, detect drift is the first way you activate creativity. Because until you detect that you're adrift or not awake or sleepwalking or subconscious or whatever you are, you're just asleep. And a lot of jobs just put us to sleep. So crack constraint is when we find that we're in drift, we actually interrupt drift and wake ourselves up and engage ourselves. Listening is another way to activate our creativity, or being the listener.
And you're not seeing your screen?
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Who said that?
Karen.
Karen, you're my new best friend. That is so funny. Well, then you gosh. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try it again. Can you see my screen?
It's starting. Yeah, now we're good.
Hallelujah. Okay. Start back up here. Detect drift. Find out where you're asleep. I want to ask you to also consider, if you're in a job search, consider these aspects of creating your activity in a job search. If you're kind of sleepy, doing the same thing over and over, and you pretty much put yourself to sleep, wake up. Crack constraint means come up with a new way to keep yourself alive. Because I don't know about you, but when I used to look for a job, it would just like filling out those dang things would put me in a like depression. So maybe, Elizabeth, I think you said music. Maybe you need to do that standing up with rock music going on in the background so you can even stay awake. Then you need to be heard. You need to be telling people what it's like to look for a job. You need to be asking people what it's like. You need to be getting your thoughts out of your body. Because if they stay there, they'll get lazy. And then you have to be willing to go into liminal space. Now, what's liminal space? It was that moment when your turn is coming. It's your turn. Phew. Now arrive to the next person. Liminal space can also be all the time you're unemployed. You have to have a plan for that time period separately. And then mixology and reverse engineering, that's your peanut butter and pickles. Maybe you do something that's totally backwards. Like before doing the resume, call somebody. Interrupt your pattern. Maybe instead of going for the same jobs you've been going for, try something totally different. And then we have to unlearn and not know. Sometimes the best way to open your creativity is to say, you know what, I really don't know. I'm going to try for that job just to see what happens. And then we notice that play is a pivotal energizer for creativity. So we can take these same principles and apply it to manufacturing, apply it to engineering, apply it to science and medicine. But it's all about activating your creativity. Okay, I'm going to stop again because I want to ask you, how many of you, if you'll raise your real hand, how many of you are looking for a job right now? Okay. How many of you wish you had a better job? Okay, so we've got job seekers mostly, right? I want to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a story, and I want you to really open your ears. Really open your ears. I was married for 25 years, and my husband passed away. And he died trying to get a kidney. So we thought he was going to get a kidney and live, but he didn't. So as a 63-year-old woman, I now had to go get a job because as long as he was working, all of our bills were paid. And I had to go get a job fast because the lights were going to be turned off. So this is the way creativity can really work. I want you to listen. If I ask myself, who am I applying for a job? I was depressed, alone, not even very confident. I mean, I'm a has-been. And I thought, okay, if I go on a job interview, depressed, alone, and a has-been, how long do you think it would take me to find a job? No, it wasn't good. So I found a job in the paper. It was really close to my house. It paid really good, and it actually called for the skills I had. So I created who I am. I said, okay, if I'm depressed and alone and a has-been, who do I never get to be that I really want to be? And I made up that I wanted to be unreasonable, unapologetic, and unleashed. So I started saying, I am unreasonable, unapologetic, and unleashed. So I went to the job. The interview went great. My skills were fine. The guy was a little hokey, but it was all right. And he said, yeah, well, we're looking at a lot of people and, And I just said to him straight in his face, sir, I am unreasonable, unapologetic, and unleashed. And I want to leave this job coming to work on Monday. Now, that's a liminal space. You just left normal and you do not know where you're about to land. And I just looked him in the face and waited. And he said, well, you're starting Monday. And I was like, I went outside and I about broke out in tears, started calling. The thing of it is, who you are to yourself is who you create yourself to be. Now, I bought a house in Maynard. It's just Maynard. But if that house had already been decorated and I didn't like any of the decorations and I continued to live there for 12 years without redecorating anything, I wouldn't feel very invigorated or alive. A lot of us have the furniture that was given to us when we were kids about who we are. Or maybe that was given to us by our last partner. It's up to us to decide and create who we are. Because when you go in an interview, confirmed with who you are, it makes a difference in the outcome. And even if it doesn't, it makes the difference of being alive. And we just had that experience playing a game with one sentence. So if creativity can be that for us, then it's up to us to be that. Our circumstances don't give us who we are. We create who we are. If you're having a hard time doing that, like there are people that say, and I love, Brody, that you said, I'm not good at that. I'm not very creative. Great. Don't be creative. Just make it up. When you were kids, we made mud pies that were amazing. Right? Little boys put on a cape and they're Superman. We can pretend, we can make up. And I don't know what happened in adulthood where we had to stop making up who we are. But that's what I want to teach people in life, in the workplace, to stop suffering, stop being asleep, wake up and be creative. So I've got a couple of tips for you, but here's what I want you to do, because there's no point to do the PowerPoint. I think you already have the message. But what the PowerPoint would show you is blah, blah, blah. What I want you to do right now is put in the chat on a 1 to 5, rate your energy now. Would you say you are not so good? Don't really feel much right now? About normal? Good? Or awesome? And then I'm going to play, I actually did this a little backwards, but I'm going to play a video for you. It's about, I think it's about 4 minutes. I'm going to share my screen and play a video for you. And at the end, well, I tell you what, let's do this right now. Right now, would you say you are more apt to take action to create yourself than you were before we met? On a 1 to 10, 10 being high, or yes, no, whatever you want to do. I want to know if today made a difference for you. Are you more likely to see creativity in a powerful way? Are you more apt to put in practices that might support your creativity? Are you more apt to tell a friend about creativity? I mean, I want to know kind of where you are. And while you're doing that, I'll cue up this video here. While I'm doing this, who has something they'd like to share?
I'll share something.
Tell me.
Since we're trying to fill the gap. When I first got married to my first husband, it was in the 70s. I was a hippie, and I had twin babies, and I married the drummer in a rock band, and we went down to live temporarily with his parents, who were very conservative Texan, rural Southern Baptist people. And his mother, who was a sweet, lovely, late Southern lady, was very disturbed by me, and especially my clothes. And so she'd say, why don't y'all come here and we'll find something in my closet that you can put on. I think you'll be just lovely in this. And she had a lot of these little bandlon outfits that matched, stretch pants and little sleeveless tops. Anyway, every day she'd put me in another outfit of hers, and I broke out in welts all over my body wherever her clothes were. And I was so unhappy. We really were having a hard time. And that was when the Sonny and Cher show was on TV. And there was a character that Cher played where she was in the laundromat, or she lived in a trailer park or something. I can't remember. And she had on rhinestone glasses, and her bra strap was always showing on her arm. And anyway, I decided that I was going to just play a role, pretend I was in a show, a movie. And I was going to play a person just like my mother-in-law. And this was my costume. This was my costume for this role, for this part. And as soon as I pretended that I was in a play, all my welts all went away. And I lived this role. And I thought, well, that worked out well. And she liked me better, and I was okay. And so there's a little survival story, I guess.
And how did you feel?
I felt okay because I loved play acting.
A lot of us love play acting, and we've stopped doing it. I'm going to put in the chat the quiz. So if you go to creativeactivationinstitute.com, take the quiz, you'll get a score on how creative you are. And I'll get your email. And everybody that I get your email, I'm going to send you a list of tips and tricks to activate your creativity. How about that? Your hand's up. I wondered if you wanted to share something.
Oh, no, sorry. It was from before with the round robin story. I'll take it down.
Okay. Don?
Me?
What would you like to share?
Well, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, I posted in the chat about, I think most of our organizational cultures and even our adult culture is risk and failure averse. And there's been a lot of things written about, you learn through failure. You look at any of the great inventors, they failed again and again. We've got to be not so judgmental, but I think for 95% of people, their relatives, bosses, peers clamp down on all that, and that kills creativity.
Without a doubt. In fact, Seth Godin just wrote an article for LinkedIn about creativity. Yep. And he was the one that said, if you don't have an advocate for creativity, it generally will kill. If you don't have an advocate for creativity, the thought of failing will kill creativity.
Yep.
The other thing is orthodoxy. Well, we just don't do that here.
Right.
It doesn't take but one or two examples to figure that out.
Well, and that usually comes down from the top.
Oh, it is from the top. And it's also historical. I love it when somebody's worked a place for 10 years tells a brand new person, oh, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Like that will kill creativity. Like, in other words, finding creativity killers, most people aren't on a hunt for it. There's some research coming out now. McKinsey's a global research company. They just came out with a research that shows companies who invest in all three, creativity, analytics, and purpose, have 2 times the delivery of financial success than their peers who don't. But it's going to take a while for that to filter down unless you have an advocate at the top.
Although
Now,
I look at McKinsey somewhat skeptically because they were the ones in the 80s who told AT&T that cell phones would never become a worthwhile business.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is, you know what? There are things called failure clubs.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And they get together and they all share their biggest failures.
Cool.
And what it does, it's usually in the startup community, because what it does is convinces people that, yeah, we fail. Yeah, failure's there. Fail faster, fail forward, fail, and get it over with. But that's generally in the startup community. The hierarchy that we have in many businesses is still the same from Ford's manufacturing philosophy back when education was to teach people how to follow the rules. So if you were replaced, somebody could just step in. That game changed. In 2020, last year, every business needed creativity more than they ever had, and they weren't ready.
And agility. No, they weren't.
We weren't ready as a society. We were freaking out. What do you mean I have to use a QR code to order in a restaurant? You know, it's like change was everywhere. So I'm going to try this video because I really want you to see it. And if it doesn't work this time, I'm going to give up. But I'm going to try.
Don't forget to share.
And you're not afraid to fail?
I'm not afraid to fail.
Creativity is the shift in the conversation from what's not working to what's possible. Creativity is the art of creating each moment being perfect.
You can still see it?
Yes.
Okay. Creative coach and founder of Creative Activation Institute. It's my stand that people know that they have the power to create, and they remember to create powerfully. You know, we're given a lot of notions about what we should be, about what life should be, about what our jobs should be, but the truth is, if we're not creating our own life, then we're missing the whole point. Being creative is being alive, sitting on the edge of your seat, actually getting that life is profoundly in this very moment. I hope you'll join me. I'm going to stop it right there, but I think you get the idea. So I want to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm looking at your faces and I'm just so thankful that you would take your sleepiness and stop it for a minute and be creative with me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Shannon, for having me here, and Kathy. And take the quiz. I'll get your email. I'll send you the tips and practices. It looks like we're going to be creating a creative nudge community where we actually send you a challenge. You post it on Facebook and we connect with each other to keep each other activated.